Here we are on a recent project for 35 degrees, and I'm going to talk you through our partially exposed concrete floor. The idea with partial exposure or random exposure floors is to flatten out the concrete so that it becomes a polishable surface. What happens in these floors is, depending on how the concrete goes in, we get high points, we get some low points, and when our machine goes over the top of them, it all brings it back down to one flat uniform finish. Because we're flattening out the concrete or removing more wastage from certain areas, you'll get spots that have a heavy aggregate exposure, so you can expect the full size of the aggregate to come through, and then there'll be other sections where you have absolutely no aggregate. And that simply happens because the high point comes down to a low point. In the low point, you'll find sandy little flecks of rock that are coming through, and then in the high point, you're going to get that real deep colour from the aggregate that's coming through. The reason we call it a partial exposure or random exposure is because you're going to get an exact representation of what's happened on the day when the concrete gets placed. It's extremely important to reach out prior to doing these finishes so that we can make a recommendation for the concreter, or so that we can create a conscious environment so that the builder, the client, the concreter and ourselves are all on the same page. This gives us the ability to get the floor super flat and really helps us align the finished result with the client's expectations. The average depth or the average removal of concrete from a partial exposure would be 1 to 3 millimeters. So it's in the mid-range. It's not a surface polish where we're just working with the top millimeter, and it's not a heavy exposure where we're cutting really deep down into the concrete. One of the added benefits to a partially exposed floor is that we still get to do the grouting process, which means any holes, any damage throughout the build process, any cracks that are in the floor still get to get grouted and filled.